afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alyssa Corum and Ed Carson here. We're going to talk about the action for the major indexes, the NASDAQ leading in a narrowly mixed session. And Ed, we're going to talk about two actionable stocks and a name in a group that one could say is flying as high as a kite.
That's right. You definitely could say that, Ali. We're going to take a look at NEO and recent IPO C3.ai, better known as AI, and marijuana stock Tilray.
All right, let's do it. First, here is the NASDAQ marching higher still, up about 0.1% for the day, closing above that $14,000 mark. But it was a narrowly mixed session. The Dow slightly lower for the day. The S&P 500 down 0.1%. The Russell 2000 joining the NASDAQ on the upside, up about 0.5%. So overall, it was a relatively quiet session, Ed, but a landmark one, I guess you could say, for the NASDAQ.
The NASDAQ got to 14,000 for the first time. The S&P and Dow actually hit all-time highs intraday. It was a fairly quiet session. There wasn't very big moves either way. You can still see that the NASDAQ is extended somewhat, from the 50-day line. Probably hasn't really changed from yesterday, probably about 8% or so above the 50-day line. When you get above 60%, 6%, I mean, not 60%, 6%, that starts to be a little extended. If you look in late January, we got to 8.2%, when before we had that, sort of notable but not huge sell-off. And of course, when you were looking like over in early September, we got as much as 11.6%. So we can go higher. The question is, it's the risks that we'll have a pullback continue to increase and then the risks of a bigger pullback increase. But right now, everything looks pretty good.
All right. Well, we also, in addition to the major indexes, we're also seeing interesting action for individual stocks, more actionable names out there. So NEO among them, which gained over 6% today, Ed. Now, this is a stock that really caught our eye last year and a pretty incredible run. And it's kind of struggled around this cup breakout. I mean, not struggled all too much, but it's really just been marking time a little bit until today, a very powerful move.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the cup base that it had been. I mean, it was actually pretty deep. It may not look it because it had such a big move, but it was 33% deep and it run straight up. So it wasn't really surprising that after the breakout that it would pull back. I mean, that's a risk from cup bases like that. So it's set up again. It found support around the 21-day line for quite a while. And yesterday, it retook the buy point, the old buy point, and it sort of depends. It depends on how, if you wanted to, you could draw a trend line if you wanted to cut through some of the noise and get through there. So today, really strong move. It sort of feels extended from here. It's sort of a tough play depending on how you draw it. It is a closing high. This is an all-time closing high, slightly above, what that other day. So, if it got above 67.09, I suppose that would be sort of a base on base type of situation where you could probably buy it there. So it sort of feels a little bit in between buy points, but this was really strong action.
Yeah, but with it feeling extended, maybe if it can come up to those prior highs and then form another handle, one can dream.
One can dream, yes.
But interesting action here for sure with NEO, and it caught our eye early on IBD Live and continued higher throughout the day. And elsewhere, among recent IPOs, C3.ai, ticker AI, also on our radar as it cleared that 160 level, Ed, and it finished the day up almost 12%.
Yeah, really nice action. I mean, this is obviously, you can see this has had some moves. It had sort of some fake outs in the past, so it wouldn't be surprising, throughout that it's a lot of big volatile moves for it to come down again. So you have to be ready for that. From the buy point, it's probably just slightly extended. I mean, if you bought it, you'd have to know what you're getting into, especially because it could definitely come down from here. The buy point would run up to 168.56. So technically, it's a little bit extended. So you might want to wait, but a lot of nice action. Obviously, AI stocks are really in motion. They were talking about this. Well, we weren't, but you guys were talking about it on IBD Live today. And Scott St. Clair was noting that there was really good institutional support that has come into this. If it was probably already there, but it may not be a big deal, but those are pretty big funds. Just starting to take a taste in there for this company. So, which it gives you some vindication there.
And I think it's really interesting that we've seen so many IPO stocks performing well. What do you think that says about the overall market?
I mean, in some ways, it's great. It's one reason it's great. I mean, you're talking about AI, things, like a lot of these really the hot industries, groundbreaking things, really a chance to have huge markets. On the other hand, there is sort of this sense of froth, and maybe going for the next rocket. And I just want to buy anything hot. There's always an element of that with growth stocks, but feels like more froth in the market right now. That doesn't mean that this isn't a justified move, but obviously there's a lot of IPOs doing very, very well.
There are. So something to keep in mind, but we are keeping very close tabs on all of these newly public stocks. And we're focusing primarily on the ones that are showing really strong top line growth. This one doesn't quite have as strong as the top line growth that I think we would maybe like to see, but it hasn't reported its quarterly results yet since being public. So maybe that could change, but the stronger that top line growth for the newly public companies, especially the ones that aren't profitable yet, the better.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. And let's also look at Tilray, TLRY. What a move today, up over 40%. And, I feel like until the election, really, a lot of these pot stocks had kind of been written off for quite a long time. When Tilray first went public, it just had this explosive move, and then it was dead money or worse for a really long time. But now it's found a bottom and it's continuing higher. So not a buy here, but this industry is getting a lot of attention and has over the last couple of months.
Yeah, a lot of attention. There's a lot of hope that there'd be more legalization efforts. There's obviously a lot of states, but maybe at the national level. Canopy Growth they reported their big loss, but they expect to be profitable in late 2022. So that stock did really well. So that's helping Tilray. Tilray got a big move also because it has a new UK medical marijuana deal. So that turbocharged this stock. This one is actually sort of flashing sort of now almost, it's getting extended. It's something like 60% above the 10-day line. I'm trying to remember what it was last time I'd looked there. And it was,
70, almost 70%.
Almost 70%. As Chris Gessel, our chief content officer, says, traditionally 20% would be getting up there and you'd start worrying about a pullback, just getting, at least in the short run. Lately 30 or 40%, but this is really getting high. I mean, it doesn't mean it's done. A lot of stocks will pull back and then come back, but you don't know. This stock could easily fall back to 30, 25, and it would be sort of normal action, but that would be an awfully big drawdown for investors. So, we're seeing that more. We saw that with Futu. We're seeing it with some others out there that have had big moves. Maybe not quite as extreme, but they're starting to show this kind of, real frenzy, which is something that you should know. You might take partial profits on these stocks. You at least have an exit strategy. If it does this, like if it falls below today's low, maybe I sell half, or do I, whatever your strategy is, make sure you have an exit plan. We certainly saw with GameStop, you don't want to be going into a hot stock without an exit strategy.
Yes, exactly. I was going to talk about GameStop as well, because the rookie mistake that some investors might make is see a stock up 40% and think, "Hey, I want to own a stock that can go up 40%." But you don't want to be buying stocks when they're this extended. The more extended a stock is, the more risky that buy is. So maybe you could have snuck in above this $10 mark, or even when it came out of this bottoming base here, I guess, even when it, powered above the 20 level. But at this point, way too extended, and we need to wait for a new setup.
Yeah. And that's like, you just want the odds in your favor. Could this go up more? Absolutely. But the odds are not as strong as they could be with a lot of other stocks.
Yes. When you're buying at those proper entries, which we love talking about and getting into detail on that over on IBD Live, our daily morning live stream, where we're sharing our screens, talking about actionable stocks, setups, stocks that are making big moves, ones that are maybe getting overheated, selling strategies you should take in those instances. Also, cutting losses when trades don't work out before those losses worsen. Ed, there's always so much to talk about on IBD Live. I feel like we wish it could be an even longer show than it is. I feel like there's never enough time to cover all the tickers that we want to cover, but we cover a good deal of them every morning.
We cover a bunch of tickers. We cover different strategies. We're looking at topics. We go in detail into like institutional holdings, into investing strategies. The poll questions you bring up every day are just great. They have great discussions off that. So there's so much going on. It's just chock full. It does seem to fly by as well. I can't believe it's like, oh my goodness, it's almost been 90 minutes and and we're still going on, but so I definitely think it's worthwhile. I try to listen to it every day, even when they don't have me on the show.
Well, speaking of tomorrow's episode, we are going to have a special guest, Charles Harris. Those in the IBD community are very familiar with his name. He is portfolio manager and senior vice president at O'Neill Capital Management, worked directly under IBD founder Bill O'Neill for many years, has a ton of great Bill stories and just a lot of great investing knowledge. So we hope you join us tomorrow morning for that over at investors.com/IBD Live. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.